Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today for this brief Q&A on my latest book, Night Bloomers, 12 Principles for Thriving in Adversity. And a big thank you to Boulder Bookstore for inviting me today. What I'll do is read the question that Boulder Bookstore sent me and then give you my responses. So the first question, what drew you to the idea that some people actually thrive better during challenging times? So although I wear many professional hats, I'm a clinical psychologist, a professor, a researcher, and author, I've noticed that my greatest personal growth has come from spending some time in the dark of sorrow, suffering, and loss. And this has been more important to me even than my professional training and experience. I've also been inspired by the blooming stories of my clients and watching them transform through difficult times. And the truth is, I've been a night bloomer my whole life, and I didn't have the words for it until 2013. That's the year that my marriage fell apart, and I was in clinic one day, and a friend sent me this text message, and it was this picture of this beautiful pink flower, and the words said, "Night blooming cactus. I've cared for this cactus for years, and it finally bloomed last night." My first thought was, wow, I didn't know there were some flowers that bloom in the dark, but there are some flowers that require the dark to bloom. And my next thought was, I think there are some people who also require the dark to bloom. And I'm one of them. I'm a night bloomer. And you might be too. We do our best growing and transforming through the difficult times in life. And so this got me really interested in what is it about certain people that causes them to thrive during adversity? Because the truth is, not all of us thrive when adversity comes. So I put together 12 principles that I found that people do to set themselves up to bloom in the dark. And that's what Night Bloomers is all about, helping you to put those 12 principles into practice so that when you're in a time of adversity, you too can thrive. The next question, what kind of research did you do while writing this book? Well, one of the professional hats I wear is researcher. So it's very important to me that everything I offer my reader is based in good, solid science. So each of these 12 principles is supported by research. So for example, when I was writing about the principle of grieving before growing, I went to the grief literature and I talked about how important it is that we acknowledge and mourn our loss before we're able to heal and move forward. When I talk about how important it is that we support ourselves, have that social support during our blooming process, I went to the social support literature that shows a very strong correlation between mental and physical health and social support. When I talk about how to use our mind for the blooming process, I share a lot about the principles of cognitive behavioral therapy. So that's just a little sampling of the research that's in the book. And I tried to provide it in a way that a lay person could really understand. So you don't have to be a researcher to understand the research that supports these principles. Next question. Did you write this book during lockdown, knowing that it would be a helpful book for so many people? Or has this book been the work of many years? Well, I wish it was that fast to write a book, but it's not. I had this idea back in 2013, and I first wrote it as a memoir and put it away for a couple of years, and it felt a little too personal, so I turned it into a novel, and that didn't quite capture the message I wanted to provide. So in 2018, I put it into the current format, which is more of a personal growth book with these journaling prompts. And that really felt like how I wanted to deliver the message to the world. And now that we're in 2020, I realize why it took these 7 years for this book to get out to the world, because this is the year that we've faced so much more darkness and adversity that most of us in our entire lives have faced. And this is the year we really need more hope. And we need some effective tools for managing adversity. So I am so thrilled and so honored that my book can be out there to help people during this time. Is thriving in adversity something that anyone can achieve? You know, I might rephrase that to, can anyone be a night bloomer? And the short answer is yes, but it's a choice. So the first principle of blooming in the dark is setting an intention to bloom. And that's really taking an active stance of asking myself, how do I want to show up in my life? Who do I want to become when this whole thing is over with? You know, really setting a determination that I'm going to use this time to become a better person. And that's not guaranteed. It's a choice. And so the book was developed to help you to make that choice and then to empower you and equip you to fulfill that choice that you made to bloom in the dark. Why do you feel journaling is an important part of this process? You know, writing is an incredible tool for healing and for transformation. There's more than 30 years worth of research to back up that statement to show that journaling has a positive impact on our mental and our physical health. I've also used journaling in my psychotherapy practice with my clients for nearly 20 years. I've run journaling workshops, and I've always been amazed with the transformation that happens in my clients. It's so much more than just a Dear Diary entry. We're finding meaning, we're creating new narratives, we're finding new perspectives and insights, we're finding resolution. So journaling is a very powerful tool. And I decided to put, there's about 6 or 8 writing prompts at the end of each principle for blooming in the dark. And this was really a way to help the reader to take an active stance. I didn't want this book just to be a book that you read. I wanted it to be a book that you did. So you read a principle and then you start the journaling exercises, and that really prompts reflection and then helps you to start to take action in your life. Which of the 12 principles in your book would you say is the most important to thriving? Or if that's too difficult to say, which is the most surprising to most people? You know, that's a tough question because I think they're all important. But if I had to narrow it down to one, I think I would start with the first one, which I just mentioned, that setting an intention to bloom. It's really important that we look forward into our story and we write the ending. I know we're still in the dark right now, but to create the hope that we need to keep moving forward, we need to have a picture of ourselves in that fully bloomed state. And so this setting an intention to bloom is, who am I going to be when this is all over? How do I want to show up in my life? How do I want things to be different? How do I want to be a better person than I am right now? And so you create that hope and you create that vision, and that gives you the motivation and the confidence to be able to keep taking those steps forward even when things are really hard. Next question. What's helped you to thrive during COVID? Well, actually, I read my book a couple of times, and that turned out to be quite a treat. So there's a lag time between when you submit a manuscript to the publisher and when it actually gets put out into the world in a published state. And so I had the opportunity to read my book as a reader and not just an author, and that I found quite helpful, surprisingly. Other things I'm doing, I'm hiking outside with friends and having Zoom dinners with my family. I'm taking online dance classes. I'm giving myself lots of breaks. I'm giving myself permission to have bad days. And the other thing I'm finding so invigorating is being able to have opportunities like this one to share this message of hope with other people. It really makes me feel like we're in this together and that we can learn how to not be destroyed by this time, but actually to propel ourselves further than we were before this difficult year began. Last question, can you read us a short passage from your book? And sure, I can. I'm going to read you a section from the preface, and it's called Don't Waste Your Sorrows. A friend gave me more than a Band-Aid one day when she sent me a quote from a well-known reverend and scholar, Dr. Timothy Keller. Here's the quote. How you respond to the troubles in your life will go a long way towards whether or not you ever develop courage, ever develop patience, ever develop compassion, ever develop sobriety and humility, ever develop any of those things. Don't waste your sorrows. This created a significant change in my perspective. I had been living like a person driving a car with my eyes fixed on the rearview mirror. What happened to my marriage? Why, even with my best efforts, could I not fix it? These obsessive questions and this way of viewing my situation were setting me up for a big crash. It was time to let go of the whys and start focusing on the more important questions. How was I going to move on? Who did I want to become as a result? And what did I want my life to look like going forward? Dr. Keller's words illuminate the purpose of our pain. Troubles are opportunities to become more courageous, more patient, more compassionate, more humble. We cannot develop these or other essential character virtues without going through a situation that calls for their use. For someone to call you patient, you must demonstrate patience. That means at some point you'll have to wait for something, and likely that waiting will cost you something. Certainly it will cost you your time, but often waiting costs us much more than that. To be told that you are courageous means you'll have to face something that is scary and uncertain. To be called humble, you will have to give up something, such as recognition that was due to you. You see, it's not the trouble that causes us to become better people. Participating in life makes trouble inevitable, and not everyone comes out the other side in a better state. We all go down one of three roads when we encounter trouble. Trouble can destroy us, trouble can leave us unchanged, or trouble can help to transform us. It takes conscious work and determination to choose to be transformed in the midst of trouble. We don't need to seek out suffering so that we can become more. I dislike suffering as much as the next person, and I would never have willingly chosen the painful events that occurred in my life. What I'm saying is that if we're experiencing trouble and suffering, we've been given an opportunity, and what we do with this opportunity is up to us. So in conclusion, I just want to say thank you again so much to Boulder Bookstore for having me today. Thank you for all of you for taking this time to watch and to learn a little bit more about night bloomers. My parting wish for you is this: when you find yourself in the dark, I hope you will choose to bloom. And when you do, may you find that every dark season in your life produces beauty not possible in the light. Thank you.